So we're going to continue on in our transformation unit. A transformation is just a change to an image, and we are learning about 4 different types of transformations. We already learned about dilations, which where images reduce or enlarge their size to create a similar figure. And this week we're learning about 2 new transformations, translations and reflections. So which transformation have we already learned about? We have already done dilation. Translation and reflection are this week. Rotation, I spelled that wrong. Rotation is next week, and then transformation is just the name of all of these types of transformations. All right, so let's start with translation. So I want you to think about if you have ever been out of town somewhere where they don't speak the same language as you. So maybe you've been to France. I have not, but let's pretend that I'm going to France and I'm over there and I'm hanging out, and all of a sudden, hey, I remember I don't speak French. I only speak English. So because I'm over there, I'm going to need a translator. I'm going to need someone to translate the language for me. So when they translate it, they're not changing anything. Nothing is being changed. I'm not being changed. I'm still the same person, but I just need it in a different location. I'm in a different location now. And that's all a translation is you're moving to a new location. So for translations, all we're doing is adding and subtracting a movement along the coordinate plane here. I am not multiplying or dividing. So if you're moving on the x-axis, so remember on your coordinate plane, your x-axis, that's your left and your right movement. So up here, this is your left and your right, your x, and your y is your up and down. So you might be saying, well, how do I add or subtract? Which way do I know to go? So if you're going to go to the left, that's a subtraction because you're moving backwards on the number line. And if you're going to the right, forward, that is adding. But then if you're standing up and down, so your y is up and down, say you move down, that is a negative movement to your y. And your y, if you wanted to move up, that's a positive movement. So my x, I know my x moves left and right. So this one says x minus 3 will make my image move 3 units to the left. Yes, that's true. The next one says x minus 3 will make your image move 3 units down. No, x never makes your image move up and down. X is only left and right. So then the next one says y plus 3 will make your image move 3 units to the right. That's not true because y is only up and down, which means the last one, y plus 3 will make your image move 3 units up. That's your true statement. So what does a translation do? So all a translation does is slides over to a new position. So let's look at this J. So that J started at -3, 4. So that's where it started. I'm going to say that's my XY. Then what did it do? So here's my X, here's my Y. It went over 2 times. 1, 2. So it moved over 2 times. So it moved to the right, 2. So it moved to the right, 2. And the Y then moved down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So my Y went down 5. So how do I write that in math? Well, let's see. We talked about your X and your Y. So my X, if my X moves to the right 2, that means I'm adding 2. And my Y, if I'm going down, that's subtracting 5. So that's my rule. This is what we're going to focus on today. We're focusing on the rule. So we started as XY, and then our change turned into X plus 2, Y minus 5. So really, that's what we did here. We did plus 2 and a minus 5 to end up at J prime, which is at J prime is at -1, -1. So what does congruent mean? Congruent just means that it's the same size and the same shape. So you can type that in here. And go ahead and pause your video so you can write this down. This is going to be very good information you're going to need. And we're going to talk about that more this week. So let's try one together. Let's write the rule for the xy in this space. So my xy, I know I'm starting off as xy. And let's see, what are we going to turn into? What are we going to change? So I'm going to pick a point. And I can use any point. So I'm going to go with this letter D here. So this first one, this letter D is at 2, 2, 1. Let's write that over here so I don't forget. D is at, this is my original image, 2, 1. Now my D prime is at -2, 6. And you can pick any points. I could have done B and B prime, C and C prime, A and A prime. So I want to see what happened to my X. So my X, I started here and I moved over 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So my X moved over 4 in that direction. So is it growing or shrinking? Well, not really growing or shrinking, but is it moving forward or backwards? So it's moving backwards. Say if you're standing there, so let's put a little person in here. So now you're moving backwards. So I moved backwards 4, so that's an X minus 4. And then my Y, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My Y went up 5. So because I'm going up, that's a plus 5. So let me rewrite my rule here. So what happened to my X? It went over 4, backwards 4, and my Y, my X went backwards 4, and my Y went up 5. So that's what you're going to type in here. Don't type what your XY started as, just type the rule. So you're started as X minus 4, and then my Y, I added 5. You can type that in. And let's see if that's true. Let's just check it. So my X, I'm saying it's supposed to subtract 4. So if I type in 2 minus 4, I should get -2. Check. And Y plus 5. 1 plus 5 is 6. Check. That worked. All right. So let's try a reflection now. So a reflection, you can reflect over the x-axis or the y-axis. There's 2 types of reflections. So let's look at the x-axis first. So this is a reflection over the x-axis. So when you're reflecting over the x, all you're doing is taking your original xy and turning it into x and the opposite of y. So that's the opposite, not negative, opposite of y. So if you see how this one was at -2, 1, and now it's at -2, -1. It's not because it's negative, it's the opposite. So say that it had been negative, that would be a positive now. And then the same thing over here for my y over the y-axis. So I'm going back and forth from this way to this way. Over your y, what's going to change is you're going to do the opposite x. So always think opposite. If you're reflecting over the x-axis, you're going to do the opposite y. If you're reflecting over the y-axis, you're going to do the opposite x. And what does a reflection do? It flips. It flips. And a way that you can remember that is there's this FL in reflection, and that is a flip. So a reflection is congruent, but does not keep its orientation. What does that mean? So a reflection, when you look in a mirror, it's a flipped back at you. So because you're flipped back at you, it's the same size, same shape, but the direction has changed. Now you're flipped. You have to flip to the other side of the mirror. So the direction changes, but the size and the shape stay the same. That's the first answer choice. So what do you notice about the rules? The way that I remember it is I think opposite. So the opposite, if I want to reflect over the x-axis, I'm going to do an opposite y. And if I want to reflect over the y-axis, I'm going to do an opposite of x. So you always do the opposite one. So if I'm looking here, what type of transformation has happened? Well, it went from here to here or here to here. So that's over the x-axis. And then this one, it went from here to here or here to here. That's over the y-axis. And then I want to do one of these with you, and then you can continue on your own. So this one says triangle MNO is on a coordinate plane and is translated 3 units to the right to create triangle MNO prime. Which one of the following rules describes this transformation? So there's only one change happening here. The only change that's happening is it's being translated 3 units to the right. So I'm going to say that I started off as XY. And what did I turn into? That's a Y. So XY started as an original XY, and then it moved 3 units to the right. So which one moved, the X or the Y? The X moved because the X is your left and your right. Your Y is your up and your down. And this one says 3 units to the right, so that means my X moved over 3 times. So did it go forward or backwards? Well, if I look at a coordinate plane, here's my Y, here's my X. So if I'm moving to the right, 1, 2, 3, that is adding 3. So my XY is going to turn into X plus 3. And nothing is happening to the Y. It doesn't say anything about moving up and down. So that's my Y right there. So that would be answer choice D. All right, y'all go ahead and continue. Make sure you wrote down all your notes because you're going to have to do some of these tomorrow as well.